Photoshop is a very forgiving program in that it will keep track of all of the changes that you make while you're working on a document and give you the opportunity to undo those steps while you're working. Now, I mentioned in a previous lesson that you can go to your preferences. It's Edit Preferences on a PC or Photoshop Preferences on a Mac, and you could go into your Performance category to modify the number of history states. Now, default is 20. I recommend 50. Work with 50 for a little while, and if you find that it's too many, you can bring it down. If you find that it's not enough, you can bump it up. It does sort of increase the file size while you're working, takes up RAM rather, but 50 should do it for you. And so while you're working, Photoshop is recording your steps. So for instance, we'll grab some type and we'll write the word Colorado. And maybe I want to change the size of this. Let's make it really huge. And make it center aligned. And then position it right around there, something like that. Now, as I did all those things, we opened up the file, we selected the type tool, we made some type modifications, and then we moved it. All of these things have been recorded while I'm working. You can undo any of the steps at any time by going back in time, like so. And as you undo these things, it's just sort of reverting your file one little piece at a time. If you were to make a change now, though, anything after the selected layer in the history panel would be removed. It's like erasing time, and then you would start over from that point. Now, there's some buttons at the bottom of this panel, which I think are pretty interesting. So let's say I wanted to change the color of the type to something sampled from this document, like so. So I set the character style. And now I look at this and I think, well, you know, I really like this one, but I'm not sure. I kind of like the way the white one was. Maybe I'd like to move these off in two separate directions and then work on them at the same time and then compare them. So you can create what's called a snapshot by clicking this little button here. And this creates a snapshot of where you were in the work process so that if you continued working, so again, let's say I decide I want to try another color. Now let's try a blue. I could create another snapshot. So now I can toggle between these different states of my document, and it will remember the history for these individual states. So I could say I really like this, don't like that, but maybe I want to start back at the beginning. So if you ever need to revert your file back to the very start, that first snapshot is the revert snapshot. You can also revert your file through the File menu, choosing Revert or F12. So let's say I want to leave it on this last snapshot, but I still want to work in white and have this as an alternate option. This first button here will create a second document from the existing state of this file. Clicking this button, there's my second document with that blue that I like to work with. Then I could go back to my history panel and maybe change the character style back to white. So now I have two documents, one with the text in blue, one with the text in white. I could do modifications to both of them simultaneously, and at the end of it, I can compare them and decide which one I want to keep and throw away the one that I don't want to keep and then continue working. So all these steps were recorded in the history panel. Now there's another panel that's really great to work with. It's called the Actions panel. If you don't see a little marker for it here in this collapsed secondary panel dock area, you can open it up through the Window menu. It's Window Actions. And Photoshop comes with a bunch of preset default actions in the Default Actions folder. This folder can be expanded and collapsed by clicking on the arrow, and you can apply any of these to your entire document or a selected layer at any time. So for instance, if I wanted to cast a shadow on the type layer, I would go to the Cast Shadow action, select it, and click the play button to play it on my document. There are other free default actions that you can access and open up and bring into your document through the Action panel's option menu. And any of these can be opened at any time. So I might choose Image Effects, and on the aged photo, maybe I'll play it on my background layer. Click the background layer, press the play button, let Photoshop do its thing, and then I'm done. Now, with the first action, the shadow here is on its own separate layer, which means that I could move it, maybe align it here, like so. You can create your own actions at any time. So let's do this. We'll collapse the default actions and we'll collapse the image effects actions, and we'll create a new folder for our own actions. clicking here, and you can name this set whatever you want. I usually say start by naming it after yourself, and then if you create several actions and need to further categorize them, you can rename this folder. To create a new action, what you'll need to do, and I'm going to hide these layers like so, and select this background layer. You just click on this little button here to create the new action, and you just need to give your new action a name. So maybe I'll call this, I'm going to call it test for now because I don't know what I'm going to do. And then you can say the set that you want it to go into, and we've already created the folder with our name. The function key, you can assign a function key. So if this is something that you think you'll do often, then you can create a function key for it, and then all you would have to do is play that function key at any time on the selected layer. And then the color, if you wanted to, you can colorize this. So let's say we wanted to make this one green. Then you'll click the record button. Clicking the record button means that Photoshop is now recording any action that you take within the workspace, although certainly me moving my cursor around like that will not be recorded, but any action that I take, any layers or panels or tools that I select and make modifications to this document will be recorded. So for instance, I could create an adjustment layer for black and white, and then I could adjust some of the sliders here to increase or decrease the contrast in the particular areas of this document. And all this would be recorded. I could even apply a tint to this image, and then I could choose the tint color. Let's say I want to make it kind of, let's see, we'll do kind of like a reddish pinkish color, something really faint like that. And maybe that's all I really want to do. When I'm done, all I have to do is click the stop button, and it remembered all of these steps, which means I can go and open up any other document that I've been working on, and then I can play my action. All I have to do is select it. It doesn't need to be expanded. Selected, and then play that action on that image. And this will remain here in my Actions panel for all my other documents, and I can create as many actions as I want to do as many things as I like at any time. And you can apply as many actions as you want to a single document. So let's go back into Image Effects. If I wanted to do something else, all I have to do is select it and click play. Sometimes it will ask you if you want to continue. If something is not available, it might open up a dialog box and ask you to make some changes. And you could just continue. Now in that case, that particular one didn't work, but let's select the background layer and see if we can get it to work on oil pastel. And we'll hide these. So it made it a little bit look like an oil pastel. We probably could have done some further adjustments to it. But the idea is that you can select any image and then play any action. Let's do, make it look like light rain. Play any action on it. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others for it to perform, depending on the resolution of your image and the depth and scope of the action itself. But so I encourage you to try some of these. I usually work on a background layer and then just go and click a bunch of things and see what happens. So let's try neon lights just to see what's happening. That's pretty crazy. So you don't have to stick with any of these. You can test them all out. Let's do gradient maps. Wow. So you can play around with these, and when you have your document ready, just save it. Or if you don't want to have any of those things, any of those layers, I can just select them all and drag them into my trash.